soon, just today. Yes, you gon' learn, you gon' learn, you gon' learn. It was just past 1, 2, 3 man with a 4, 5 step to the door like, oh my gosh, just throw that cash in a backpack, run around the back.
Hey everybody, it's Liz from the Lemon Bowl.
Vince from Irie Kitchen.
And welcome to the Irie Lemon Podcast. All right, ready to go? Episode number 7. E is for
Enneagram. Or Enneagram?
Enneagram.
There we go. I call it Enneagram, so it's Enneagram?
I believe so.
You also say scarcity.
True. I've mispronounced a lot of things.
I can't spell.
Regardless, I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you for coming, Abby.
Thank you, Vince.
So we have Abby Manchesky in the house.
Whoop, whoop.
Woo woo.
So she's the best. She's the coolest. One of my dearest friends. And she is also the person that got me into the Enneagram. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then Liz got me into Enneagram.
Paid it
thank
forward.
you for that.
Mm-hmm. Changed my life. So we wanted to have you on because I think that if people understood the value of Enneagram, more people would be into it.
Absolutely.
And people that are already into it might know other ways that it could really help and benefit their lives. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
I do. And what I love the most about the Enneagram versus other personality types, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I've taken this test, or I know what my disc is, and things like that. The Enneagram it's not static, it's fluid. Right. So you're the same type your whole life, but the Enneagram shows you what you are in your most healthy version of yourself and what you're like under the most stress. Right. So you can see in your personality like the red flags when you're going into stress. Like for me, it's withdrawing. So you know that if I'm not answering your text, like Mayday alert.
I always know, right? It's a weird thing that goes on if so many days have gone and you haven't replied. I'm like, oh, something's not right.
Yeah. So
if that was me, you'd know I was dead.
Right. Because you're 2 and you would never not respond. Yeah.
It's cool. And I think to your point, what I love about it compared to Myers-Briggs and other tools is that it's a tool to help you be the best version of yourself. So it's not just to say, this is who you are, take it or leave it, and you stop there. Once you learn your type, that's just the start.
That's just the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's when you can really learn how to get towards the healthiest version of yourself, which of course no one's the healthiest, but we can all strive to be healthier than we were yesterday, right?
Absolutely. And I would argue the Enneagram is about connection. Yeah. Connecting with yourself, connecting with other people. Like once you have that understanding of the different people and the types in your life, it's like a whole new lens to see them through and gives you more compassion, like understanding of where they're coming from, the lens that they're looking at the world.
So we should also start by saying our type. So
sure.
Well, real quick though, to give you guys a perspective, because I think it'd be good for the audience. Like, so someone like me, who before I took the Enneagram didn't believe in like EMP stuff or none of that. Like I was just like, yeah, you're just who you are. People are interesting. People are unique.
That's right.
100%. Like there's no test you can take that someone can tell you who you are.
Don't box me in.
Right. Don't box me in. All that kind of like, yeah, literally that's I built my life on creating my own box and not being boxed in by other people's stuff. So in a funny way, when Liz sent me Enneagram, I took the test. Again, I was super skeptical of it. But then I started reading it and I was like, oh, this is 100% like so accurate.
The 3 type.
Yeah, the type 3 for me. Yeah. And I read it and I was like, well, I took the test, it was type 3. And at first I was reading it and in a funny way, I was like almost ashamed of it because of how accurate it was. I'm like, yo, like this is like someone telling me about myself.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
In a weird way that I only knew. Cause I've always been very self-aware, but it's like that I like knew, but like, oh wait, other people are like this. And then I started going in it, and there's another podcast, I'm forgetting the name, but this guy, he makes songs based off Enneagrams.
Yes.
And
it's Sleeping at Last.
Yeah, and I played the 3 and like got my feels. And I was like, all right, this dude pretty much explained my whole life. Like in this like what? And then I sent it to Park. I sent it to all the other people that were also, and like their number was also very accurate, and it also like sparked an emotion for them. Yeah. And after that moment, I was like, okay, let me dive deep into this Enneagram thing. So to get back to your question, I'm a type 3 on Enneagram list.
And Abby, you're
I'm a 9.
And I'm a 2.
Mm-hmm.
So just to I know when I'm listening to podcasts, I always want to know what types the speakers are. So we'll start with that.
Yeah.
The first question I want to ask you, Abby, is for people that don't know their type or aren't sure, or someone said they're a type, which you're never supposed to type other people. We're all guilty of it a little bit. But what would you recommend to someone? What's the best tool or resource, which we can also, of course, link to in the show notes for people that want to know their type?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked, because if you're anything like me, as soon as you start listening to this podcast, you're going to want to get on the computer and let me take a test and see what number I am. Do not take a test. I know that's how you did it, Vince, but
we've all done it.
We've all done it. Okay. I've done it. But the Enneagram is so deep and interesting that sometimes I've found the best way to figure out your type is to talk to other people who've known you for an extended amount of time, because they've known you at your best and your worst, and through a longer time period. When I first learned about the Enneagram, like 15 years ago, I thought I was a 2, because everyone that I was talking with at work about the Enneagram saw me in a very helper role. The 2 is the helper, and so I fit into that mold for them, and it sounded about right.
It's like me when people thought I was a 7, because I'm always at parties and traveling.
Right. The 7 is the enthusiast.
On paper, right.
Yeah.
So the book that you gave me is also that book is awesome. Would you say that's okay also to
there are a few different
some books?
Yes, there's so many good books. Riso Hudson, The Wisdom of the Enneagram. That is the book that I gave you.
Yeah, I love that book.
That's
which I since gave you.
Yeah, that book's crazy.
I like that book the rest
is wild.
You need this book.
It's a comprehensive resource. It's almost like a textbook. It goes through every chapter.
You'll go to it at different times in your life to look at different
It's like a
aspects.
reference.
Correct. And as you meet new people, like even when I met Vince, like now I'm looking at the chapter 3. Like it's a good resource to your point. It's a good investment because you will go to it throughout.
Right. And I think it's $18 on Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
Another one is The Road Back to You.
I want to read that. I listen to that podcast all the time.
Yeah, as do I. So did I. That is probably the top podcast I'd recommend, and that's called The Enneagram Journey. But her book, The Road Back to You, is another excellent place to start.
Wait, I think I was confusing. What's the one with Ian Cron?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I sent it to you today. I'll look at it later.
Oh, that
Typology.
That's that's a different one.
Okay, because he has a book also. So.
Okay.
Anyways, there's lots of. We'll link in the show notes to our favorite Enneagram podcast.
Yes.
But certainly, listen to a podcast is not a good way to find out your type.
Actually, it can be.
Can
There's
it be?
On the Enneagram Journey podcast, there's an episode called Orientation to Time.
Oh, I love that episode.
And that is an episode that goes through all the different types, because every type is oriented. Like I'm a 9, I'm oriented toward the past. 6s are oriented toward the future, and it's so eye-opening once you realize the people that you're interacting with all the time, like where their head is at. If they're always in the future, because that means they don't have to feel the now, and if the now is painful, then they're just like, let's move forward, let's go to the future. And they don't have to deal with the stuff that's happening because they're already making those next plans. Yeah. Like you're on vacation with a 7, they're planning the next vacation, talking about how awesome it's going to be.
Right.
They're in the future. So that episode on orientation to time is really helpful if you don't know what your type is, because she talks about all the different types, and you'll something about that will resonate with you.
Oh yeah. I'm always in the present moment. Like that's just 2s are in the present, and it's hard when we're sometimes with other people that either keep dwelling on the past or like, yeah, but we need to do this right now. Well, okay, but what about tomorrow though? Like not necessarily next year, But that's why it's so good to know what
other people in your life.
I'm always in the future.
Always.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool, but today we're doing this. Have we thought about it?
Yeah. I do want to say one thing that you mentioned, is that when you read it, you were almost like ashamed. It stirred something in you, like, wait, you're not supposed to know this about me.
Yeah, it's like almost like being exposed to yourself, but like written in a way that was like so true, like clear and true. Like there's like I think there's parts of everybody that we try to like not show.
Sure.
Right? I believe that we have a persona, and that's like who we are and what we build up in a weird way.
Yeah, 2s and 3s don't think we're worthy of being loved as our true selves, so we're always trying to like.
Exactly. So when I read the 3, right, and that part, loving your true self, I started realizing that my whole identity is what I do. Like, I don't have like things other than that. And when that was revealed to me, like that's one of the things that opened up to like they get afraid about, because like if you guys try to dig deeper, after business for me, there's not a lot of things I talk about or care about. I'm quiet. I don't talk about things I don't like have no comments on. Be like, are you not into it? I'm like, no, I just don't. Like, when we talk about business, 100% I got you. You want to talk about some other stuff? Like, I'm quiet. I don't know. And it's like, when that was revealed to me, it's like, oh, wow. Like, you know, I got to work on, make sure that I have other things outside of work and what I'm doing, because I do build my like worth off that. And I feel like go ahead.
You are more than what you do.
Yes.
I say that to him every day, Abby.
Oh my gosh.
But it's so hard for me to get there, because in my brain, like, no, you guys are only my friends because I've been doing this stuff.
Yeah, that's not
We've had like hour-long discussions.
I believe it.
About, it's so funny though. I sometimes wish that those phrases, like, it's almost like you have to remember just saying that out loud to the person isn't going to instantly change their being.
No.
Which is
but the mantra for you as a 2 is, what's mine to do today? Mm-hmm. Like,
that's what that woman says all the time.
But sorry, I'm kind of jumping around.
Yeah, no,
when you said that it was, you felt a little bit exposed, I want your listeners to know that is key in knowing your type. Yeah. You are going to feel like a bristle.
Yeah.
Like, I did not. I had worked with a 9 in the past, and I decided I didn't like them. So I definitely did not want to be identified as a 9.
That is interesting.
I'm like, ugh, no, not 9s. And then this year, I finally realized, with some help from my therapist, that he was like, have you ever considered, because their main like motivation is you don't want those broken relationships. You want to avoid. I want internal and external peace at all costs. Yeah. So if there's conflict, I want to avoid it.
Which is why I think 9s and 2s get along so well, because most of my closest girlfriends are 9s. Don't you think so? As opposed to like, I could see a 6 and I would constantly be trying to like get them to be like agreeable, but their whole life is disagreeing.
Well, the 6 is a questioner, so they're going to question everything because they take in information. They are going to make all their decisions by like facts and information, whereas the 9s, when they're going to feel things in their bodies.
Yeah. Is it sometimes hard? So some of the 9 friends that I have, partly why they go to therapy is they have trouble expressing how they feel, and oftentimes, while that sounds amazing, I wish I didn't have to express how I feel all the time.
Well, you need to process things in real time, out loud with words.
That's a 2 huge indication.
Yes.
If you're hearing that and that sounds like you might be a 2.
You might be a 2.
That's a good example of how a podcast might help you. I do know, and I own the fact that to get to my peace, because I think most of us prefer peaceful situations.
Right.
So I know that I can't just fast forward to it and be like, peace out, emotion. But the quickest way to peace is to talk about it out loud, and it gets rid of the shame. But what was I saying to you about
9 friends? We were talking about 9 friends.
That they're often in therapy to learn how to express, because in their close relationships, whether it's marital or whatever, typically a spouse is wanting them to communicate more openly about how they feel. Is that something that you struggle with?
Well, a 9, there's different stances, and 9s are part of the withdrawing stance. Okay. So 9s, 4s, and 5s. So a 4 is like the artist, the romantic, the individualist. They are unique and special, and they do their own thing, and they're going to do it their way. A 5, they have a very limited amount of energy, and they have a lot of thoughts in their head, and they want to really protect that energy throughout the day. So they don't have the energy to like be talking to you all day. They might need to go in the room and be alone with their thoughts for a while. They're the observer. But 9s, 4s, and 5s withdraw. Okay. They're the withdrawing stance.
So part of where a spouse might be looking for more verbal communication of emotions is because you're in that withdrawing.
Correct.
What are the other stances?
The other stances are aggressive. So a 3, who is the achiever, they're an aggressive stance. The 8 8 is one of the most aggressive. They are the challengers. So,
you're gonna know an 8 in your life real quick.
Yes.
I feel like they're easy to. Is that not fair?
No, I mean, I think
feel like
they're
one of
pretty
the
easy
easier
to
ones.
identify. Yeah.
They're never wrong is how I think of it. You're more of an expert. No, but I realize it's not like they're mad at me. That's how a 2 would interpret it. Like, I think they're mad at me or don't like me. Oh, no, they just can never be wrong. So the minute I just started agreeing with all the 8s in my life, things got really good.
Well,
how do you describe an 8?
so a 9 sees both sides of everything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see it from the 8 side.
Yeah.
8s they're a challenger, and they feel really passionately about what's right and wrong.
Different than a 1, though?
Different than a 1 because a 1 has a constant inner critic, and they're trying to be the best version of themselves. Like did I do this right? Did I do my best? How could I have done it better? And it's a constant inner critic voice in their head for the 1. An 8 doesn't have that constant inner critic. They are just like, this is what I believe, this is what I'm passionate about, and everybody better get out of my way.
That. More authoritative.
Yes, they're the leader. They're usually in a leadership position. They're a boss. And they're also like, think of like a mama bear.
Yeah.
They have like, they're very loving and affectionate with a small group of people, like maybe their children and their spouse.
Totally.
But outside of that, they will see emotions as weakness. And they might think they experience all the emotions, but really they're just very passionate. And so because they feel passionately, they sometimes confuse that with connecting emotionally, but it's not the same. So that's something that they have to work on. It doesn't mean 8s don't have emotions.
Right.
Of course they have emotions,
but everyone does.
Every type, another thing I want to make sure I mention, there's no type better than another. So if you look at the Enneagram diagram, it's not a mountain where there are some,
we're not all trying to get. So I'm always like, I want to be a 9.
We're not different levels.
I thought my type was the worst type.
Everybody thinks that.
No,
That's what everybody thinks. I'm like, oh, 9s.
I think now. I personally think though, what's great about it is I love that different people in my life are different types. I always talk about my circle of 5, which you 2 are in it, obviously. And I think that I don't have a lot of other 2. I have some 2 friends, you know what I mean? But I do try to keep a tight circle of other types because I think the perspective of other types different than your type is going to be your saving grace. Because all types are needed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to feed off the good parts of you as well, and you push me to do different things as well, like not apologize all the time.
Right.
So I think that to your point, no type is right, and also you need all types in life.
Correct.
Well, it kind of rhymed.
Yeah. Exactly.
So go back to, you're talking about aggressive stance. Like, I know you're probably getting into something. What does that mean if you're an aggressive in Enneagram?
Okay, there are 3 different stances: dependent, aggressive, and withdrawing.
Okay.
I'm assuming 2s are dependent.
Correct.
And what are the other 2 dependent types?
1, which is the advocate or the perfectionist, they're very into like, this isn't right.
Wait, maybe?
Like justice wise.
Maybe we should go through each type so
Let's do
people
that.
so people can hear it, and then we'll go back and jump around.
Yeah.
Perfect.
For a listener, right?
I know. I feel like we're all over the place.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I tried to finish the 3
All right, let's start with
I know.
let's start with like type 1. What is the
We'll
type?
go through the stances, and I'll say a couple anecdotes about each type, and then and I think this is true for you guys as well. I mean, obviously jump in, but I think our hope is that, I mean, I'm not an expert in the Enneagram, but our hope is that this would spark interest in looking into what type you are and how it might affect you in work and love and life.
Exactly.
It's just an awesome tool.
Spoiler alert, it makes your life better.
It totally makes your life better. I can't even imagine doing life without the Enneagram
literally
now.
made my life so much better. So that is our, just why we're so into this.
Yeah. So there are 9 types, and what the Enneagram is not. It's so funny. Someone
what is
today,
the Enneagram not? I love this.
Someone today said, "You've been learning about it for 15 years. I thought it came out like 5 years ago."
Oh no, it just got trendy.
It just got trendy recently, but it's been around since like the 3rd or 4th century.
Oh wow.
So it's
I
very
feel like it's
old.
one of them is more highly regarded.
It is.
It's like everyone's different, but I feel like it's pretty highly regarded.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And what it's not is New Age. So that's why I kind of bring the ancient stuff to it. It's also, so I grew up in like fundamentalist Christian background. And when you see the image, it looks kind of like a pentagram. And so people are like, what is that, satanic?
Right.
Is that New Age? Like, what is that? It's not.
Right.
And Suzanne Stable, the Enneagram Journey, she's coming at it from a very Christian perspective.
What's the connection there? Because I do notice, maybe because I'm Jewish, there is a huge Christian Enneagram, isn't it? Did it start?
I don't believe so.
So the Christian religion just got into it? I don't get it.
I wish I knew the answer to that. But I would, because I'd have to do like a deep dive into the history of the Enneagram.
We don't want to lie. But
No.
You'll notice many of my favorite podcasts, and I'm Jewish, so the part, even like the Instagram accounts, it's like your Bible connection person. I'm like, what? I don't even
You're like, I don't know.
But I mean, I almost just like take that aside. Even me, as someone that, I don't believe in Jesus, so I can still though find value. You can still get the message that they're doing, even though they'll often connect it to the Bible. But anyways,
I don't know exactly what the connection is, but I think in general Christians believe that you're created in God's image, and I think maybe Jewish people believe that too. I don't know. But so all of the different 9 types are parts of God, and then when you're living your healthiest and integrated self, that's good. That's helpful.
Totally.
So that's what I don't know for sure the connection, but that would be my
to your
first
point,
guess.
Elizabeth, is that her name? Stabile.
I don't think it's Elizabeth.
Or what's
Suzanne.
Suzanne, yeah. So she obviously, her husband's a pastor.
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera. But still one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah, it's not a faith-based personality type by any means.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go through the types.
Yes, good.
Now you're gonna start at 9 or 1. You know how on Instagram they rotate that?
Yeah.
They feel so bad that either the 9
because it always starts at 1, but I don't mind.
A lot now start at 9.
Yeah, so we're gonna start at 1 because we're rebellious that way. So a 1.
She's got notes, folks.
I have notes because there's a lot of information to remember. A 1 is the perfectionist. Like I said, they're the ones that have that inner critic, and but they're also, they feel strongly about something done right, like in a social justice type way. So they're going to be the person that's advocating, when someone's disregarded or when someone is repressed.
Okay.
Oh wow.
And they don't want to feel anger. They kind of push that down.
Okay.
So they want to do things just right, and then everything will be fine.
Right.
The helper is the type number 2, and they are dependent. They're another dependent stance. And they are thinking repressed, and so is the perfectionist. They're thinking repressed. It doesn't mean they're not thinking. So they're
not thinking most effectively.
Correct. So you have thoughts all day long, but it's like, did what I say make that person mad?
No, those thoughts.
95% of our thoughts are about our human relationship, our relations with other people.
For 2s.
Yeah.
Yes, not for everybody.
No, 95% of our type 2.
Yes. Yeah. So you're thinking all day long, and you feel like, man, I have really done so much thinking work today. Yeah. But it could be not necessarily for the most helpful things, depending on how healthy you are in a 2, right? And then number 3 is the achiever, Vince. That's what you relate to the most. And that is an aggressive stance, and your feelings repressed.
Okay.
So,
it's not that they don't have feelings.
Correct.
But
you want to, it'd be easier if you could just like do the work and be seen for your achievements.
100%.
Than like connect over how you feel about something.
Oh yeah.
So the real work for like him is actually in touch with those feelings, where it's same thing, like getting in touch with like,
and just reminding yourself like you are loved for who you are, not what you do.
Yeah, that's been such a big thing for me. Like growing up as a 3, now that I know what I was,
right,
or who I am, it's just crazy that like like, wow, like I've always done things or and continue to do things because of these reasons. And it's like, no one knew it though. And it's hard to kind of explain too, right? Like until you have the Enneagram as a background, why you're doing it. Because people are like, why do you feel that way? That's crazy. And you're like, you can't explain why. Like, I don't know.
It's just who I am.
Like,
When I'll ask him, like, how does that make you feel? He's like, why do you keep asking how things make me feel?
Right? Like, and like, I think, and I don't know, but if you're a 3, I believe, or at least in my experience, it's hard to like you like winning, like achieving, but like it's hard to kind of stay in it. So like Liz's like, oh, you did good on that. Like, how do you feel about it? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like I could have probably been better, or like I'm not really like looking at like the feeling of the win, or like I hate losing too. Like I was definitely a crier if I lost. Sure. You know what I'm saying? And like I just was overly competitive, right? But I didn't realize that I based how I felt or my relationship, I won this game or I did good on this thing. So I think for a long time, because I wasn't good at school, but my sister was, that's why I was probably like in my experience, was like the worst time of my life.
Absolutely. I mean,
Because like,
it'd be torture.
I was like, I'm not good at it. I'm actually trying. People then will say I'm not trying, which made me like go in a weird spiral. Like, no, I actually am trying to be good at it. I just don't know why I'm failing. I don't know why. Like, and then people ask you, why are you doing it? And like, right? So it's like a continuous cycle. And I definitely agree with like the feelings repressed, because that definitely opened up feelings I didn't want to ever talk about it. It's more about like X's and O's.
Isn't it because they think of feelings as a distraction from reaching their accomplishments, or their, like, it's just going to slow them down?
Yeah, I mean, why bother feeling things when I can just do something? Because that doing is what's going to get me those relationships, even though it's not true. But that's like the process. But when it's, I say that you're in the aggressive stance.
Yeah.
So I'm in the withdrawing stance, and that's where I go when I'm under stress or discomfort.
Yeah.
So when you are feeling like in school, when you said you're not doing well and you're trying and you like want to be seen as this achiever, and you're not, that's where you can get aggressive.
Oh yeah.
Does that ring true for you?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Love it.
I used to get a lot of, especially with my parents, a lot of arguments.
Yeah.
And like definitely am like definitely strong-headed too. And I think I get in that moment, especially when if I'm not good at something, right? Instantly like will start feeling away, like instantly. And then I definitely result in an aggressive, and then like I'm better now, like of controlling my like outbursts or like what I'll do. And I do think when I was younger too, I was in a sense sensitive. I just didn't know how to manage my feelings, so like I would cry a lot or get really upset all the time.
That's because you have a very strong 4-wing, and we're going to talk about wings a little bit.
And the crazy thing about the wings, real quick for a second, guys, I thought it was a 3-2, and then I went in it one day, and then Liz was talking about a mutual friend who was a 4, and I was like, I relate to a lot of. So then I looked at 3-4 stuff, and I was like, oh.
You're like, hello.
Yeah, this is me, 100%.
Yeah, I can tell just by things that you've said. You have a very strong 4-wing.
Oh yeah.
So you don't think he's in a 4?
No, but I think your 4-wing is like the
strongest
that it could possibly be.
Yeah, especially like when the individualism or being like, 100%.
Oh yeah, big time.
I don't want to do anything else.
If he sees someone do something really cool, he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Instantly don't want to do it anymore.
Oh, I understand 100%.
You know, businesses when I was younger, I stopped because the other kids started doing them.
That's so funny.
I didn't want to do it anymore if this kid was doing it too.
Yeah, why would you? That's not unique. That's not your 4s. So since we're moving on to 4s anyway, 4s are the romantic, artistic, individualist types. So they are constantly separating themselves not in a bad way, but in a unique way. They are the individualists. They're making their own mark. They're doing it their way. Like I've heard you say in the past, if I'm just going to do it my own way. And that's like 4 all the way.
Yeah, 100%.
The difference is just this is an example I love about the wings. So everyone has a type. You're that type your whole life, but you might move around from health to unhealth. And then you have a wing. And a wing is, so if you're a 3 or a 4, if you're a 4, you either have a 3-wing or a 5-wing. Your only wing options are the numbers on either side of your number.
People I've had try to tell me that they're like a 2-wing 8.
Yeah, I'm like, no, you're not. You're not. So a 4 is very like individualist, and their big fear is that they're not going to be seen. Like no one's going to really understand, and that they're never going to be known. And so once they're known, then they're super healthy. Like if they're feeling really seen and heard, and they've got healthy relationships. But if they're the difference between the wings, a 4 with a 3 wing, so the 3 is the achiever and a 4 is an artist. Madonna is a 4 with a 3 wing. She is very artistic, and I hope your listeners are young enough or old enough to know who Madonna is. But any like successful artist
We'll link to her Wikipedia.
is a 4 with a 3 wing. So she's doing the work and also like is incredibly successful in achieving things and getting those deals made.
Yeah.
Just like you, Vince.
Yeah.
But a 4 with the 5 wing, so a 5 is an observer. They're taking in everything, and then they want to process it alone. They don't want to talk about it, and because that takes their energy. They have a limited amount of energy every single day, and once that's used up, they're done. So they really need to like protect themselves from that. But an artist with a 5 wing will create art just for the beauty of the art. But they may not ever be like a really successful artist.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, successful in however you want to define successful, but that's
sense.
the difference there. So it's super helpful to know what your wing is. So, for example, Liz, you're a 2. You're a 2 with a 3 wing.
Clearly.
Yeah. So that's like another example. So 2s are helpful. They're like they love hospitality. They love serving other people. But a lot of people are helpful, like especially women and mothers. They often think that
like all
they might be a
teachers,
2.
all nurses,
right? Especially with females, it can be how we're raised. We're raised to be polite and like be helpful and don't say no. But you'll know you're a 2, and really this is true for any type.
I hate this part.
Well, I'm going to talk about all the types. So you want to know how you are, like what's your motivating factor?
Yes, this is huge, because isn't that what Enneagram, it's what motivates you.
Yes. And that you don't have that with the other types.
No, that's what's unique about it, is it doesn't just describe you like Myers-Briggs does, which, by the way, I love Myers-Briggs.
I love Myers-Briggs too.
I was way into that before Enneagram.
Yes.
So I recommend that also, but it's completely different in that Enneagram is what motivates you every day. It's what motivates you is usually what is an indicator of your. So, anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point to make.
So.
So you were saying 2 motivation.
You're a 2 with a 3 wing, and a 2 is super helpful, and lots of people are helpful. So if you're a mom, you might think, oh, I love having people over, and I'm really helpful and nurturing.
Yeah.
But if you check on any of the types, you want to check the motivation, and the motivation for 2s is I want to help you and serve you so that you'll love me.
Correct.
I'm not like worthlessness, your own needs. You will put your own needs aside to serve others because that's how you earn their love.
Right. You're not worthy of love if you're not helping and serving others.
So like Vince isn't worthy of love unless he's achieving things and performing.
What's your type?
I'm not worthy of love because mine's not worried about love. Mine is worried about peace.
Got it.
And so I will struggle to think that it's worth me saying what I need and want.
You'll withhold your needs for the sake of the peace.
Correct.
Got it.
And so I will really choose my battles.
Yeah.
If I really don't care where we go to eat, I just don't care.
That's like me. It's just different motivation.
Right.
It's right to be loved back.
And that's why the Enneagram is so helpful in work, in relationships, in family.
Huge.
Because if this is the lens I'm talking about, like if I know, for example, someone very close to me is a 6, and their driving factor is fear. Like they make they don't trust their decision making because what if we end up on the street because of that decision? So knowing that they just need time to process and they're afraid, it's not about me. Right. I'm like, I gave you all the information. I told you this is, what I think the best decision is. And they're like, well, I need time. I got to do it myself. Yeah. I need to check with my board of directors. Like every 6 has a board of directors that they check in with.
Okay.
I even had a client that I did a consultation with, and she just wanted me to come over and tell her that she was making the right choices.
That's so funny.
And
Oh wow.
she's a 6.
Yeah.
And most people are 6s. They're the questioner. They don't trust their decision making because what if they make a mistake?
Interesting.
And their big fear is like being bad,
Okay.
like deviant. So they're thinking repressed. So again, they're like the 2s where they're doing a lot of thinking, but they're thinking like, well, what if we lose all of our retirement?
Right.
What if we lose our house? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be real. It's not productive thinking, but
Yeah.
that's what they're thinking about. And they're dependent on others. They're in the dependent stance. So if they have a 9 in their life like me, that I'm withdrawing because I'm moving to unhealth.
Yeah.
And then they get stressed and they need that affirmation because they're dependent on me
To give
to
give
feel
them that. Yeah, yeah,
Even
yeah,
just
yeah.
me
Connection.
knowing that about you, Abby, I remember that like changed.
it changed our friendship.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, because imagine someone that goes from like texting you all the time and then you won't hear from them for like a week. Like, of course, it's not. I used to like feel like, why do I even like whatever? But
Why do I
it's
even
normal
try?
to
If
wonder,
she's not
like,
going to write me back.
Right.
Yeah.
But once I realized that's just like the withdrawal stand. It's just, this is another example of why Enneagram, what we really want to empower you to learn about, not just yours, but the people in your
Around
circles,
you.
because it's going to improve all of your relationships, personal, family, work, etc.
And for me, like, it gives you just a nice understanding too, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, all right, now I have a deeper understanding about somebody else. And since because I'm an aggressive type, and like
Under stress.
under stress, right?
Yeah.
So if my friends or people in my life, and like also I was reading that like we're very solution based. So like I'm always the phone call when something bad's happening, right? So then like or something good's happening, I'm always the phone call. So I'm always giving answers. I'm always giving solutions. I'm always giving. In the weird way too, for a side note, I a lot of times don't have anyone to call when I'm going through it because it's like I need like and I feel like when I voice my stresses or my like people don't like give me the same thing
Because you're
I
the
give
strong
them.
one.
And like it's in a weird way, and I used to make jokes when I was younger, like, oh, I don't get to do that.
Interesting.
But that's because I was feeding off other people, right? I was like, oh, I don't get to be sad, or I don't get to like not get it. I don't get to be like, because
Well, your feelings repressed. So if you've never had those like feeling connection conversations before,
Yeah.
it's hard to just like now when you are having those feelings,
Yeah.
you're like, where do I go?
exactly
Yeah.
in a funny way, which makes sense because while I was saying though, when Liz told me she was a 2, it would make sense why you need to call me and like go over stuff verbally.
Yeah.
She's got to
And
say all the words.
She'll say it, and I'm just like, yeah. Because like I guess I think I'm also intuitive, so I know where she's going. But then after like I learned more about it, it's like, oh, you have to just like listen.
Yeah.
Because the issue with like a lot of 3s, with a lot of relationships, we want to get straight to the end. Like, tell me the end of the story.
Yeah.
Tell me the end. I don't care. You can spoil the movie for me. I really don't want to spend time watching it anyway, right? Like that's like my viewpoint on a lot of
Yeah,
things.
you got a lot to do.
I got a lot to do, so just tell me the end, right? Or we just assume the end, which also gets us a lot of trouble
Yeah.
too, because like or aloof to people's feelings. I would just assume something without actually hearing a lot of times. A lot of times I'm right, but there's a lot of times I'm wrong.
Well, and the thing is, that's where that compassion element comes in that I mentioned in the beginning. Like the Enneagram, once you know your type and the other people around you, they're seeing the world. You see the world differently than Vince does, than I do.
Correct.
And once you know your type and the people around you, you have an idea of what lens they're looking through. I mean, that like changes everything.
100%.
Oh man, I get so excited about
I
it.
know.
Okay, so we're on 7 now.
We're on 7. 7 is the enthusiast. They are so fun. They're the person you want at the party. They have great stories. But what's difficult for them is they're feeling repressed. And their biggest fear is that they'll experience pain. So they don't want to.
They want to be happy and have pleasure all the time.
Pretty much. So their big thing is they'll reframe everything. So even if the experience was bad, they can just reframe it and move on. And they're like, why are we even talking about that anymore? It wasn't bad, it was great, and we moved on.
So sugarcoating?
Yeah, I think that's one way to look at it. But like one of my family members is a 7, and he will be planning the next vacation while we're on that vacation and saying, man, that next vacation is going to be so fun. You want to like get that next toy It's like grass is always greener. You might have multiple partners.
So in relation to time, I assume they're in the future. Right?
Yes, absolutely. They're at the dinner party thinking, am I missing out on what's more fun?
Correct.
Because I want to have fun, not experience pain. But we need sevens in our life. There's not a bad time. I feel like I'm making them not sound.
No,
but they're like
they're fun. Yeah,
they're so fun, and when they're every type, when they're healthy, it's incredible. They're incredible people to be around.
And that book that you referenced in the beginning, the one that you gave me,
The Riso Hudson Wisdom of the Enneagram.
It lists out 3 levels, like from the most unhealth to the most health. And most people aren't the worst and also not the best.
Right.
We're all kind of average, and it's kind of depressing when you realize how bad it is. But I think that's such a good way when you want to, obviously we don't have enough time on this podcast, but you can deep dive in that book and it'll literally spell out in small paragraphs what each level of health looks like. And then the goal, of course, is to just try to get one level up. So even knowing what you're striving to, right, I think it's...
Even if you're not striving to get next level, like let's pretend you like how you are. See, my 9 is like thinking about people who aren't like you.
What's wrong with me?
Nothing. You're perfect. Everybody's perfect the way they are.
So as we improve,
so if you're not striving, you don't have to be trying to get to the next level for the Enneagram to be helpful.
Forget that.
No, don't forget it. But for the other people who aren't striving, it's really helpful, I know for me, to see where the red flags are popping up in my life. So if you know what your type looks like in stress and in unhealth.
So like, what are some of your red flags? Just because you'll probably know yours the best. Like, what are some?
I will merge into other people's personalities around me because I don't need to be fully me. I can just disappear. Because that'll make it easier.
Yeah.
Lying.
Ooh.
Like you could, I don't want to experience the conflict, so you might just lie about it.
Yeah.
I heard of someone on a podcast who was a 9 say that the cashier said, "Oh my gosh, how many months along are you?" And she wasn't pregnant.
She made up that she was though.
But she just went along with it because she didn't want the cashier to feel bad. So she's like,
funny.
"Yep, I'm about 5 months." Like I have not done that, but that's an example of like if you are in
holding
health,
back your own needs and want. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But I just want to touch on this, but we don't have time for it on this podcast. But hopefully, like we said, this will spark interest and people will dig deeper. When you are in health and when you're in stress, you go to another number.
Right, which is a big topic.
It's really can be confusing, but don't be intimidated by it. But for example, a 9 in health, I move to a 3. So if I feel like an authority on something, I will say all the words and achieve all the things because I'm comfortable and I'm going to be the achiever and move to 3. So I just think once you know your type, there's just it's so helpful for so many reasons.
I agree.
I think 3s, when we're stressed, we go into 9.
Yes.
And I go to
you just will be quiet and peaceful and nobody.
I went to 9 in stress.
And then in growth, I go to 6.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
I know in growth I go to 4.
So give you guys a peek into my history too. So during that time I was in school, and it was like really bad for me. I literally and probably goes back to my performerness, right? When school was there, I was lit, talking to everybody, have fun with everybody, right? But as soon as I went home, I'm in my room, doors shut, not really trying to do homework, probably sleeping, just trying to get to the next day. Or try to forget about this day, and you're gonna do it again and do it over and over. And definitely when I'm stressed out or not feeling it, I want to go away. I want to be by myself. I want to think about stuff. That's when I kind of just and again I can feel that. Oh, let me just merge in right now and flow in everybody and not try to do too much.
Stir up trouble.
Right, and it's also very easy too. A lot of times, when you're on a team or working with people, it's easier. For I feel like a type like me sometimes when you're stressed out to let someone else do it.
Yeah.
Right? And then maybe you're pulling the levers behind or not at all. Maybe it's I don't want this the stress or the pressure right now. And you might just kind of disappear. That's crazy because as you were saying that I was I think because you were saying withdrawing I 100% do that. And I just looked it up. I was like, yeah. So in stress, like 3s go to 9, and then healthy go to 6.
That's interesting.
Which was like interesting.
I love it because we're like live hearing like a new revelation,
Right?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And that's the awesomeness of the Enneagram.
That's why I'm so thankful for it, because like someone like me who's definitely was like, like I don't have time to read about Enneagram.
Right.
That was literally, I don't have time to know about ENPs. I don't have time to know about love languages. Like I just do.
Right.
Always just do it, right? And like that's when I come. I think is do the damn thing is like my whole mantra. So I always tell people just do it. Like so then like learning about this stuff makes you stop and like, oh, how do I feel right now? Like earlier today, Liz and I was talking. I was like, I think I'm stressed. I would never would have said that until I learned about Enneagram.
Right.
Like,
And
I'll
Liz
like
is
do
gonna
more.
listen, too.
I'm like, oh, you're not good enough. You gotta do more. You gotta get ready for it, right? I wouldn't like stop and be like, yo, why am I feeling this right now? Am I just doing too much?
That's part of why he told me. Like, because he knew I'd listen to it. To his point.
I mean, 2s are super helpful and nurturing and warm. Why wouldn't you tell your 2 friends? The downside, we never talked about the downside of the 2.
Oh God.
Please tell me.
I just want to mention it, especially because that we were going
Let
to
me
say
guess.
like,
People pleasing.
it's not that, it's your motive. We were talking about motivation.
Yeah.
So a 2s will help you because they think that will get them that connection. So it's very common to have, I mean, everybody has a 2 in their life. Like I will still love you even if you don't clean my kitchen.
Right.
You know, I need you to go sit down because I'm an introvert and I want to finish cleaning the kitchen myself.
Right.
But then the 2 is hurt because I didn't
Yeah.
let them
I
help
will never be
me
hurt if you tell me to stop.
clean the kitchen. You know, like they
No,
want to
that's such a
help
good example.
to get that connection because then you'll love them more because
Yeah.
they've earned it by helping.
Something-
It's kind of a passive aggressive in unhealth.
Yeah.
It can be a passive aggressive, like I'm helping you, but then don't you remember how much I did for you? I
Right.
did all of that for
Right.
you and you can't answer my phone call. You know,
Totally.
those are the kind of the red
Something
flags
that
for 2s
Susan
to
taught
look
me
for.
that I do. I say this to you all the time is before like offering help, I say, "Do you want me to help?" Instead of just
smart
assuming someone
for
wants me.
2s.
Oh yeah, that's been a huge game changer for me. And sometimes he'll be like, "Liz, I told you 3 times." Yes, but I just really need to make sure that you want my help, and that's why I ask that because I don't want to just be helping to be helping.
I'm proud of you. That's
Yeah.
a lot of growth.
And I think also it's good for you too, the asking, right? Like I think what you're appealing, if you're a type 2, is good to ask because I can definitely see, and I think I know another 2 where like in relationships or friendships or business, like I don't think people like someone that can list everything they did for you.
Yeah.
And I think a 2 is really good because they're knowing what they're doing for you. So imagine you're having a conversation in like a hard one, and a type 2 is just listing. Remember when I did this, and this? And you're like, wait, like it feels like you're doing. I always tell Liz like I like doing business with her because she's doing things that's naturally who she is, but it's always the right move. It's always really smart, right? Like being helpful and knowing what somebody wants can get you that next thing, right? I always tell people like business is built off relationships, hospitality. Like anyone can execute, anyone can take the photo, anyone can do the podcast, anyone can cook your meal, right? The skill is trainable, right? Vincent likes 2 things in his sugar, or it's 2 things in his coffee, like 2 cubes of sugar in his coffee. I'm gonna give that to him before we start. Is like a type 2 kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was like is the edge. You know what I'm saying? Because like a lot of people don't think about that. Like I always tell people, like young people like my age are trying to do business, like you have to make friends, you have to build relationships because that person is gonna like you. That's why they do business with you, right? Like it's not just about. And I think this is a weird way that I've learned, even though I'm an achiever, is that like in a funny way I do know at a high level, and I think because I'm personable, is like no, people do business with people that they like.
Yeah.
Right.
100% of the time.
You were 20 when you opened a restaurant. Most people on paper would be like, "I'm not going to go into business with him," or "That doesn't look like that's going to work out."
Exactly.
But you had that high emotional intelligence, I think.
And I think that's really cool if you're a type 2 is that you do have that special edge. And if you're 2-3 and you're into business or achieving,
True.
I mean, I always tell Liz I'm a little jealous of that. Like I think about it because I'm intuitive enough, but like she would know things that like 2s are really good at knowing things that other people don't know they need.
Correct. That's what makes them great at hosting because they are like, oh my gosh, everybody's standing and it looks like maybe we need more chairs in the room. And like they're always paying attention to everybody else in the room and seeing like
If
what the
their needs
needs
are all
are.
met.
Yeah.
Like even Liz making coffee and asking for people for tea before we started the podcast.
Right.
Right.
Like she foresaw that like, oh, This is probably gonna be tired. Oh, I'm probably less energy. Sam is sick. Like she ready kind of like ready for it instead of just like ignoring it and like just right.
Right. That's a great example of why no type is bad.
Yeah.
So like it's.
But you can get back to the bad part too.
No, I was done. But I'm saying like that's why I wanted to reiterate that like there are huge advantages to every type.
Yeah.
And there are red flags to watch for in yourself so that you are taking care of yourself.
Like if I thought you wouldn't like me if I didn't bring that coffee.
Right. I mean, you're not like that.
Right.
Thank God.
Right.
But
Awkward.
yeah.
So people pleasing though is the one I always think about. But what I wanted to, I know we talked a lot about 8s and 9s, but do you want to say more? Because the one thing I would love to quickly touch on before we do close up is how just a few of the key benefits of learning about Enneagram, not just your type, but the type of, again, start with the 5 people you spend the most time with. Because we actually touched a bit about this on the Debbie Downer. You know, it can help in a workplace. We can't always control who we're with, right? And obviously I'm also an ESFJ, so I'm driven by harmony, and I do like having, you know, good relationships or, you know, peaceful times with the people I spend time with. But don't we all kind of want to have like relaxing, peaceful? And so Enneagram is a tool for that. So I will just say one big thing that I remember hearing on another podcast. So I don't take credit for this, but this has proven to be true, is that so there's people that are like, well, they might, like, I obviously am different, and then I'm very people oriented. So even if, let's say, you're not relational oriented, or you're not like, that's not as important to you, a motivation to you might be the fact that knowing the Enneagram of someone new that you're starting into a business partnership with will literally save you 18 months of meetings.
Or going to counseling.
Yeah, literally.
Like it can save relationships, truly.
It can save, exactly. So there are motivations to it beyond like, I just want to know Susie better. Like it literally saves you time. It saves you stress.
Money.
It saves you money. Tons of money. It saves you, what else? I mean, what's your...
Well, I would say, just as an example, maybe you're not going into business with someone, but you have a boss. You're going to the office every day. You have a boss that maybe you don't get along with. A lot of times we think everything that they do is about us.
Right.
So that, you know, type 5 boss doesn't have time for me because I'm not worth their time, or they don't think I'm doing a good job and I'm not seen as important. When really it has nothing at all to do with you or your performance. They're a 5 and they have a limited amount of mental energy to give to you, and so they have 100%. Strong boundaries.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're working for an 8 and they're very aggressive and you're like, why are they so mean to me? Well, they're not mean to you. That's just how they are.
My brother-in-law is an 8, and honestly, and I love him. I mean, honestly, he's my brother, but he's an 8, and I'm a 2. So
and we need 8s.
Of course we do.
Because
and
they're
he's the
the
most
leaders and
amazing
changers.
father,
Yeah.
dad, or husband, everything. But I remember it was a light bulb, literally a switch changed when I realized him. It seemed like he was just literally arguing with anything I was trying to prove or point, literally anything. And again, he's a brother-in-law. Like, they're supposed to kind of like hate their sisters a lot. But in general, I was like, wait, I really don't understand. But the minute I realized, you know, his obviously motivations and all the intentions are all good. In general, everyone's intentions and motivations are good. They're just different than yours.
They're seeing the world through a different lens.
Correct.
He sees the world differently than you.
I have a question. What is it like working for a 3?
Working for a 3?
Yeah, or working with a 3.
My first thought is, you don't want to talk about the emotions a whole lot.
Yeah, 100%.
With
doesn't,
like you don't want your
folks.
you don't want your staff to come to you with like, well, I had a breakup today and I'm so sad. I don't know if I can work because my boyfriend broke up with me, or my girlfriend broke up with me.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, you got to get the job done.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, you got to show up and
You're not
do
the one
work.
to verbally process with.
Besides that, like, he's an achiever and he expects you to achieve as well. So you get in there and be at the restaurant even if your girlfriend broke up with you.
I don't see why that affects your work.
Does
at
that
all.
sound true?
Yeah, 100%. I can see the where.
And I would say, you know, also, you know, you are someone that's constantly driven, growth-minded. I feel like that's a 3 thing, correct? Like,
Absolutely.
achievement-oriented.
Always learning.
Correct. and I feel like that's why we obviously became fast friends, because we have that in common. I imagine if I wasn't naturally like that, you know, I could see it maybe either you'd have to work hard to like live up to that or to keep up with that, or, you know.
Well, and one of the ways that you can use the Enneagram to grow as a boss is to have more openness to the connecting over feelings. It doesn't mean you have to accept bad behavior.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you might get better production if you're connecting on an emotional level,
Well,
not
that's
just a
100%.
performance level. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. I'm
Yeah.
curious because I'm like, man, I think as I'm hearing all this stuff, you said always learning, right? It's probably like part of everybody's what they want to do, but probably
No, it's not what everybody wants to do.
Is that just for the 3 months they do?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm like, again, trying to be better because I'm a cheat, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? There could be, or not could be. There's definitely times where like I'm probably to where you're at today, where you're going to tomorrow, right? Like, are you getting better every single day or not? Versus like, you know, Timmy, you did a great job today.
Right.
I'm
Getting
like-
satisfied with the now,
Yeah, because for me,
living in the present.
it's like, yeah, I don't really like have that
No.
saying you're doing good.
Right. And wouldn't you want to hear that yourself? I mean, don't you want Liz to say,
In a weird way,
you're doing
yes.
such a good job. I'm so glad
You do
we're
like
business
accolades.
partners.
Yeah, I do like admiration and accolades 100%.
But you definitely don't give it like you probably.
It's hard for me to give it because I feel like if you're doing good already, you don't need to be told that you're doing good.
Okay,
Let me say something.
Yeah.
So this is because as a 3, you're afraid that if you tell your your staff that they're doing a good job, that they might not keep performing. Right? Is that what you just said?
Or that they already
Ooh,
know.
I don't know. I feel like I'm probably assuming that.
Because I feel like that's what goes on in your head. You know, if
that could be an interesting unlock. That like, oh, I don't tell them they're doing good because I can work as hard anymore.
right, and that's like not true.
Right.
That's like not how science works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rich is like that. Like he won't be like, oh, things are good financially because he thinks I'm gonna go like spend all the money, like, or I'll slow down working. Like I'm like, why didn't you tell me that we're like up 40%? It's like, oh no, you don't need to know. He honestly, literally thinks I won't work as hard. Like if I know we're doing well financially, that'll slow down my. Which obviously that's not true. We wouldn't be doing well financially if I worked that way.
Right.
But
Yeah.
people do have those fears.
But they're looking at it from their lens.
Yeah.
You're looking at how you manage from the way you think, but
Yeah.
you're not looking at it from, not everybody sees the world the way you do.
So like in my experience working with like different people, a lot of things two things normally happen all the time, right? It's like, it's just weird. Like we get together and like, I feel like part of the team or we're gonna grow something, we're gonna do something. And then it's like, they start dropping like flies. And I don't know. I was like, well, and I don't micromanage, which I think is also weird. So like I let people do their thing and I judge them after that, right? Because like I really do allow people to be, what do you want to do, or what do you think
Yeah.
you're good at? Because I'm a lot of times self-aware, right? And like I'll see, and then we'll go, well, you fucking suck at this, so we gotta fucking do something else. But like I like to kind of see like where people are at. A lot of times, and then when I ask people. And it's all love. And I do it like, again, since I'm an achiever, I think I like to see people achieve. I'll help them get other positions and stuff. But it also seems that like people either get, in a weird way, what I got feedback from, inspired to do their own thing too. Like, and I think again, part of a 3's fear, maybe like you're saying, is like, I don't want to maybe tell someone they're so good.
And then they leave.
And they leave, right? In a
Yeah.
weird way, because I want to do good. So I want to have a good team. And if I tell this person they're doing good,
Interesting.
they're probably gonna
So
go,
that seems like that's like almost like a
weird-
manipulative way of keeping the money.
right? It sounds like a really weird way. But then if I did tell them that they're good, they're probably more
But-
inclined to stay, right? Because they're like, oh, this is appreciative of my
I
work.
said to you, positive reinforcement. I mean,
When you
Rich
say it
and
out
I-
loud, it makes sense. But when you're in your head, it's
yeah.
like, no, there's no way I'm gonna say
Rich and I are 2s, and we live and breathe off positive reinforcement, which is super awesome when you work for yourself. But like, yeah, I think it would do the opposite actually.
That's so interesting.
I think
So any 3s out there, make sure you're telling your team, your
don't
spouse,
assume they already know too.
that they're doing.
Definitely don't assume
yeah.
they know, because typically people working hard to perform well are looking for that feedback. At least I know me and my husband. That's how we are.
Even if they don't know that they're looking for the feedback,
That's probably why they're doing it.
I mean,
I usually want my boss or whatever to like, I'm working hard so they'll like notice and recognize, right?
yeah.
I mean, okay, getting the bag, getting the money is cool too, but really I just want to live up to whatever assignment I was given or I don't know. I can't think of a downside to telling someone they did a good job.
No,
Is
there's
there
no
one?
down.
Okay.
No, but
not a real one.
when you're in your head, like Vince said, depending on what lens you're looking at things through, you are like a 6. If you're living out of fear, if you're coming from a place of fear and not trusting yourself, you may not want to. You're going to make decisions that way, and you're not going to. Maybe you wouldn't tell. That's a great example. Like maybe you wouldn't tell even your wife or your spouse, like, oh my gosh, she looks smoking hot today, because like, what if they stop working out? I don't know. Like I'm just like totally making this up.
Yeah.
But
I
mean, if you would have that fear of things are always about to fall apart. And so how are you making decisions based on that?
Right. So again,
Whereas,
this is what's so good about Enneagram is knowing that. Like, oh, he didn't think I did a good job, or oh, he doesn't think I look hot, or oh, it doesn't, just because they don't verbalize it doesn't
it's
mean
not
they don't
about
think
you.
it.
The Enneagram helps you get out of your own way.
Yeah. That's why I'm obsessed with it. No, literally. Twos get into it because it gets them out of the, I hear you, Susan.
Helps you just try to get better, which I like.
Well, what I would say to you about the managing part
Yeah.
is take a look in that book, The Wisdom of the Enneagram, at the chart that says like your movement toward unhealth.
Yeah.
See if there's anything in there about the way you're managing or your fears about being positive and connecting. Because that could be a sign.
Yeah, I think, I'm definitely going to take a look. I know we have before. Let's show me some things. I think, like, 3s get really narcissistic, very, like, selfish into themselves. Like, and I think that just goes from, like, just complete being aloof to everybody else.
Well, and you can start deceiving as well, because you want to be seen as,
That's
like,
finesse.
the highest achiever in the room, So you can get deceptive at times.
Yeah. Smoking mirrors,
Just
right?
just to keep that
kind of alluring, like, yeah.
I'm
doing great.
Right.
But inside, I'm stressed out. Like,
Right. You could be totally like melting on the inside, but like you said, like I don't have the people to say that to. So you'll keep up that like achiever. I'm awesome. Because
okay,
your
Vince, you can
feelings
tell me.
repressed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think
so now that you know that, you can just work on it.
I gotta find some people
Take
to
chances.
tell things to. Okay.
Cool. All right. Any wrap up, final words you'd like to throw out there? I know it's hard in an hour. This could take. You could go like a month-long course on this.
Absolutely. I mean, there are Enneagram coaches. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I just really enjoy it. But depending on how you learn, if you're an Audible learner, like there are so many wonderful podcasts on the Enneagram. There's great books. Also, if you have any friend in your life, like
seriously,
a lot of times people will be like, I can't tell if I'm a 2 or a 3. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, if we have one conversation, I can help you.
Yeah.
Right.
If there's someone that knows the Enneagram in your life, have a face-to-face conversation with them.
Yeah. Once you start posting about it, that's the only good part about all the memes on Instagram.
Yes.
Is that by posting it, you kind of get to know your Enneagram tribe, just people that you can throw things off of.
Yeah. Speaking of Instagram, just my Enneatype is one of my favorites.
Okay. Cool.
But there are many.
Yeah, there are, and they're fun and they're definitely entertaining. Cool. All right. Any final thoughts, Vince?
No, this is a great episode. I think you guys should listen again and then listen one more time.
Yeah.
Just to get a good introduction to the Enneagram, and then take the time, like Abby was saying, just to break through and just figure out who you are, and like if you're like me a little bit, like I don't have time, like just do it, like and at least like
it will
selfishly
save you time
learn about yourself, right? Because I think selfishly learning about yourself can help you help with other people,
right?
Like if I never knew any of this stuff, I probably just kept going on how it's going on.
Exactly.
Right. So I think it's cool to like learn about yourself and then be effective.
Abby, where can people find you on social media?
Oh, you're so sweet. You can find me at Abby Manchesky on Instagram and Pinterest.
Yay.